You know, you talked about the engagement or the lack of engagement, if you will, while you were here as a student, you know, with student athlete advisory committees and things of that nature. They weren't clearly as developed in a general sense as they are now, but you know, one of the biggest things that we did during the time that I was here was obviously to pass the referendum that added baseball and 3 women's sports, you know, women's golf, water polo, and indoor track. And you were part of that. You know, can you tell me what you remember about that time and how we went about doing that?
You know, it was really interesting. I can tell you, you probably spent more hours than I did in terms of creating and developing what needed to be done. I was more one of the minions, I guess, in that case. And what I remember about it is just it being voiced to me that this is really important that this happens, not just for your sport, but just for the future of athletics here for UCI, and to tie our athletic department, even ingrain it deeper into our campus and into the other students that were on campus. I saw that as a challenge. I actually was in ASB when I was in high school, so I was directly connected to the campus that way. And for me, it was kind of exciting. It was an opportunity to get out there and kind of do some of the same things I had done then. We were crazy then. I think a group of us went out and in capes and Speedos on the day that the vote was to take place, and we were dragging people to the voting booth and expressing our feeling of how important it was and just trying to connect ourselves to the campus. And obviously, like any challenging decision that involves money, you had some adversaries to the addition of that referendum, and that was tough to stomach because I lived in this athletic world, and I always thought athletics was so important, and I couldn't believe that anyone wouldn't want to support that, but it actually gave me empathy for other students and some of the challenges they were facing just financially to try to pay for college and make it their own experience and having to work and so forth. So as much as I wanted to be angry and say, no, this is the way you do it, it actually helped me grow up a little bit, I think, being a part of that. And obviously when that vote came through and it happened, it was really exciting because it was a victory for athletics, and it gave me the feeling that, hey, we did something special here. I knew I didn't write it. I knew I didn't create it. I couldn't have even told you everything that was involved in it, but I felt connected to it because I supported it, and I worked to try to get it passed, and I connected with a lot of the other students on campus, and I think that was one of my experiences here that actually connected me more to campus. I felt connected to athletics always. I went to my classes. I did everything I needed to do academically, but I don't know that I ever felt ingrained or really connected to the academic side of campus. And I think that was one of the things that just helped me connect to other students on campus.
Yeah. You know, the genesis of that referendum actually occurred here in the Bren Center during my press conference when I was hired as the athletic director. One of the questions that was asked from the media was, when are you going to bring baseball back? I mean, it was one of the first questions out of the reporter's mouth. And I remember saying that until such time as we create stability in our program, we can never look at expanding. And I always believed that. And on my desk every day for 8 years was the signed baseball of the last national championship team from UC Irvine that had been won by Gary Adams, who became the baseball coach at UCLA. And it was sort of there as a reminder and inspiration that if we take care of business, that maybe someday we'll be able to get that program back. And so 8 years later, we felt that it was probably the time for us to take a look at that. We've been successful with the previous referendum. We knew that we wanted to make certain that we took care of gender equity needs for the department because we wanted to make certain that we were compliant. And the opportunity to bring baseball back was there in front of us. And so it was an idea that was hatched, but it was really the students and student athletes that took the bull by the horns and made it happen. We had a group of 5 individuals. I don't know if you remember them, the Fab Five. It was Mike Lawrence, who was a golfer. Brian Scoggins was a basketball player. Chris Benitez was a swimmer.
Yep.
Sarah Leibkap was a volleyball player, and Kay Nakota ran distance for us in cross country and track and field. And we sort of laid the foundation for the referendum, and they took the ball and they ran with it. And our job for the most part as administrators was just to make certain that they followed the rules properly, so that whatever policies that were in place relative to running a referendum and as it relates to campus elections and things of that nature were followed. And we provided them with the support, if you will, from the background, but they pretty much mobilized the student athletes and the students. And I believe that particular election was the highest voter turnout in the history of any UC Irvine election. And of course, it was a big win for the campus. I remember saying afterwards that, that successful referendum allowed UC Irvine to rise from the ashes. And I said that because when you go back to when I was hired and what the situation was here with programs being dropped, with donors falling by the wayside, with student athletes transferring, with morale being down, in many respects it was in the ashes, and we had to somehow get it out. And getting baseball back really created the validation that, this program's going to be okay, it's going to be fine.